All right, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Hi, how's your weekend?
Good.
Good. How is you?
Good, thanks. Anybody do anything fun?
No.
No.
I know, right? What can we do? Huh? It's supposed to be hot this week, so stay hydrated. At least you guys got 3 days off. I saw a lot of people turning in homework this weekend, so that's good. Let us take roll, and then we will do a quick review of the stuff we've covered so far. And then I'll show you some things that I added on Schoology, and then we will start the body cavities today. You will have a quiz next week, Tuesday. So Monday, when we go into our short classes, we will do a review on Monday. So make sure you guys come to class on Monday to review for Tuesday. All right, let us take roll. Ace. Get these people logged in. All right, Ace, Olivia.
Here.
Amelia.
Here.
Jordan.
Here.
Milo.
Here.
Ruben.
Here.
Jocelyn.
Here.
Kayla.
Here.
Let's see, Takeshi. Jacob. Jacob Chong.
Here.
Carlos.
Here.
One second. All right, Darian. Axel.
Here.
Larry.
Here.
Charlize.
Here.
Emily.
Here.
Ian.
Here.
Nathan. Nathan. Denisa.
Here. Here.
Andre.
Here.
Patrick. Let's see. Phoenix.
Here.
Vanessa.
Here.
Cody.
Here.
Josue.
Here.
Emily Menendez. Brianna.
Here.
Jasmine.
Here.
Aaliyah. Mark. Micah.
Here.
Josh.
Here.
Alexander.
Here.
I'm sorry, Alexandra. I apologize for that. Cooper. Mayan.
Here.
Rotsi.
Here.
Emmanuel.
Here.
Michaela.
Here.
Finn. Logan. Marissa,
Here.
Zane,
Here.
Zane, are you on that YouTube channel?
No, I'm on the Zoom.
Okay. Just FYI, guys, I have a YouTube live, but it's for Leo, who's logging in from Denmark, because he's unable to log in via Zoom because Zoom has like you have to be in the United States to log into Zoom. So I'm just doing that so he can join into our sessions, just FYI. Okay, and then Cooper, you just walked in or checked in, and then Nathan, you're here. Anybody else? Did I miss anyone? Patrick. Okay, so I'm missing Ace, Takeshi, Darian, Emily Menendez, Aaliyah, Mark.
Takeshi's in here.
Who? Oh, Takeshi's
Takeshi.
here? Oh, there you are. Thank you for telling me. All right. Okay. Oh, your mic is on. Okay, no problem, Takeshi. All right, so let me just show you Schoology real quick. Okay, so on Schoology on our class page, we will have a quiz next week, Tuesday. So here's your calendar here. Monday will be review. So please show up on Monday to review for Tuesday. And it will be on chapter 1 of that first book we used. All right, Sports Essential, this one. Here are your, just kind of the sections of the chapter split up, but you're gonna get a few questions from there. And then also from the chapter we're using now in this ebook, Anatomy and Physiology. So you will have a quiz on Tuesday. And then if you look down here on the revised syllabus timeline, all right, this was updated as of yesterday. And I just kind of put in the weeks here if you want to follow. And it'll take us up until our Thanksgiving weekend or holiday right before we go. So in this book that we're using, we're not going to use every chapter. Obviously, it's just too much for our purpose. For example, we're going to skip chapter 2, which is Chemical Basics of Life. And then we're going to go all the way to chapter 6. For our next chapter will be bone tissues. I'm sorry, chapter 6 will be one of the systems, which we will talk about today, integumentary system, which is our skin. And then 7 and 8 and on from there. So we're going to skip from chapter 1 all the way to chapter 6, unit 2 in the book. The reason is because the other chapters are like chemistry, the histology, cystology, which we don't need the entire chapter, but we will take parts of that chapter and it'll be part of other lectures. So just FYI. So if any of these weeks changed, I'll change it. So I just kind of have to get a feel of our flow and how quickly we move along, or if I need to change it up. But feel free to ask questions, guys, okay? In class, I encourage you to please slow me down if you need me to elaborate on certain things. This should be an open discussion for you. So don't hesitate to ask. Any questions on that? Okay, so it's here for you. Okay. All right, so we're gonna do a quick review. We're gonna jump on the Jamboard and I'm gonna send you the link. I'm gonna put it in the chat. So go ahead and click on the link on the Jamboard and I'll meet you guys there. So I'm gonna share the screen. All right, so we're gonna do a quick review on stuff we've already covered. So please, I encourage you to participate. Again, when you type it out, it's gonna be easier for you to remember. So I'm gonna read some definitions and you guys are going to answer, just put your answer on the board. Maybe I should type it out so you guys can read it. All right, so I'm gonna put mine in, let's see what color. Let's do green so we can differentiate it. Okay, so this is the, oops, let me switch. Study of small bodies, structures that require a. Okay, what is the study of small structures that require a microscope? The study of, Darian, if you just joined us, go ahead and get on the Jamboard. Just added the link to the chat. The study of small structures that require a microscope. So anytime you guys see the study of, the study of, you're gonna look for, the word is always gonna end in the suffix of ology, right? Ology, A-O-L-L-O-G-Y. Always gonna be the study of. So if you're posting something right now that doesn't have L-O-G-Y at the end, then your answer is already incorrect. So just remember that. This should lead you with the kind of word. I mean, not incorrect, but just know that if you're putting things like germs, that's not the study of. Let me clarify that. All right, so the answer is microscopic anatomy. Microscopic anatomy. All right, so let's take off the incorrect answers and leave the correct ones. Okay, good. All right, so we'll put this over here. Excellent. All right, next one, green sticky note. Oh, do this way. All right, structures in a certain body regions are examined at the same time. What kind of classification of anatomy is this? Excellent. Regional anatomy, right? So we're talking about when you think of a region, let's leave all the microscopic anatomy here, guys. Don't touch that anymore. So when you think of a region, right? So if you're thinking like the West Coast region, East Coast region, you're looking at the entire area of the Western side. So if we're talking about my shoulder, that's the region of my shoulder. So there's going to be your rotator cuff muscles, pectoralis minor, major. There's going to be my clavicle, my scapula, so anything in that region. All right, very good. Okay, let's move this over. Move this guy. Okay, I want you to name the classifications of physiology. Classifications of physiology. Classifications of physiology. All right, let's see. So let's look at this really quick. Yes, there are tons of physiology, right? There's plant physiology, there's medical physiology, we are in anatomy and physiology class. This is a sports medicine class. So we will not be studying animal physiology. This book is not about that. We're definitely not doing plant physiology. I don't even know if there is such a thing about plant physiology. I have no idea. So you guys need to refer to your notes. Okay, definitely not cell. All right, answers are, we have respiratory, right? Focuses on the function of the respiratory system, the breathing system, correct? We have cardiovascular system, which is a function of the heart and our arteries and our veins. And then we have your, let's see, is it here? Neural physiology, the brain and our central nervous system. And then we have one more. Renal physiology, there you go. Renal physiology, it's on here as well, which is the focus on the function of the kidneys, including the urine production. All right. So guys, no animal, no plant, right? Not the purpose of this class. That would be a whole other major. All right, so let's move these guys over. So complete this sentence. Physiology is. All right, so physiology is how the body functions. It's correct. A branch of biology that deals with the normal functions of living organisms. I would stick to just the study of functions of the body. Okay. Not the study of the function. Just make sure you have body in there, right? That's what Tori would be here. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to type in some definitions of the boundaries of life, and you tell me what that boundary of life name is. Okay, so what this essentials for life called? Maintain to keep the internal environment protected from the external. It's not homeostasis. We're talking about now the essentials for life. Let's take this out because I'm confused. It's not skin. I'm looking for the title of essentials for life. Not responsiveness, no. No. If you wanted to, let's look at a house, for example. If you don't want anybody coming into the house, what do you create? If you have your personal space, right? Imagine an invisible shield around you. That's your personal space. What is that? Boundaries, thank you. You're creating boundaries. Boundaries. So boundaries are maintained to keep the internal environment protected from the external environment. Our skin is considered a boundary, but that's not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the title, because there's tons of boundaries, not just the skin. It's also the cell membranes of our heart, for example, right? There's a cell membrane around the heart that protects anything from penetrating our heart muscle. There's a cell boundary around our long bone, which is our femur, because it protects the middle of our long bone, which creates red blood cells. It's not cell membrane. That is an example of cell membrane is an example of a boundary. But what I'm talking about are essentials for life. So let me take a quick change so I can show you guys. If you go into our PowerPoint, and let me show you real quick. Let me share. Starting with this slide, essentials for life. Starting with boundaries, here's your first one. You need to know this for the quiz. All these essentials for life, right? And these are parts of what we need to all work together for us to be alive. They're all intertwined. Do they all work perfectly? Absolutely not. Because there's things like diseases. All right, I'm gonna try this again because you guys need to know this, and we reviewed this last week. All right, I'm gonna type in another essentials for life, and you guys are gonna give me the title or what I'm describing. I'll reshare the screen. Yes, process of removing waste from the body is excretion. Very good. Right, because we need to do that in order to take waste. Let me reshare this link because some people aren't able to. You're not going to be able, FYI, those of you guys who are logging in via Gmail, don't log in Zoom via your personal email. I'm seeing that. Okay, let me just put this in the link to the chat. People just walked in or logged in. Okay, yes, excretion. Right, excretion could be going to the bathroom. Excretion could be throwing up. It could also be from within the cell, right? It's excreting things it doesn't need. We need to have that process in order to protect the specific organ, right? For example, our liver, after it filters off any waste, then the bile goes into our pancreas, our gallbladder, and then eventually the gallbladder then pushes it down and then it ends up excreting it. So that's a process of excretion even within. Okay, let me do another one. Increase. Okay, the ability to increase in the size of an organism or its body parts. What would that be? Nice job, growth. All right, the body for our everything else, as you guys went from, barely walking, right, up to now your size, everything had to grow with you. If your heart stayed the small size as when you were an infant, you wouldn't be able to push the amount of blood it needed to now circulate into, some of you guys are maybe 6 feet tall already, right? It needs to grow with us. Same thing with your bones, obviously, that's the logical one. But yeah, everything needs to grow in relative to body parts. All right, good. Okay, so let's move over here. Okay, let's see. Give me all the parts, and there's several parts of survival, or all the elements that belong to survival. What are they? Let's actually move these over here. It is not reproduction. That is a whole other separate section, not part of survival. So let's go ahead and take that out. This is here, excretion. All right, we have, first thing, we have our nutrients, right? We have water. So what's another part? What goes under nutrients? Protein, fats, and lipids, yep. Oh, well, no, fats and lipids are the same. You're missing one other thing. Fats and lipids are the same, guys. Carbs, yep. Carbohydrates, correct. Let's leave that there. So you have your vitamins and your minerals, all right? So it's under nutrients. And then we have our water, obviously. And what else do we need for survival? Oxygen, yep. What else? Atmospheric pressure. We have our body temperature. Not heat, because body temperature could also mean not just heat, right? Body temperature, we both hot and cold. But we need we need to regulate our body temperature to what? What is the normal body temperature? .6. Very good. All right. Okay, last thing we're gonna review, and then we're gonna review again on Monday. I think we're gonna need it. Okay, let's see. Name the steps in order. Okay, I want you to name in order the steps of the homeostatic mechanism, in order. Number 1, I'm just gonna put 1. Receptors, very good. Go ahead and name that number 2. And then after the receptors goes into a control center, very good. Number 3. And then after a control center determines a set point, what happens? Effectors, right? It tells the effectors, like the muscle or the glands, to create a change, to do something. And then at the very end, then exactly, then we get our response or the change that we're hoping for. Sometimes it doesn't happen because there's disease, but in order for the body to try to find homeostasis, it needs to go into this process, these steps. So make sure you guys understand the order of the steps. All right, very good. Okay, excellent. So let's go back. Let's go ahead and go log off here, and then we'll go back to our body cavities. So stop share, and I'm gonna go ahead and close this out. Okay, so make sure you guys, I mean, Essentials for Life is big. You're gonna need to know these points. And if you really look at these points, right, there's like a, if you really look at what each one is, isn't there a specialist for each section, right? There's a doctor that just specializes in that. Boundaries would be like your dermatologist, right? Specializes in our skin, which is our biggest boundary. That's one of the specialists. Responsiveness, this is like a doctor that works with adrenal glands. Digestion, right? This is somebody who they work just concentrate purely on digestion and metabolism. So these are really important. Okay, growth would be your orthopedic doctor. Cell reproduction, cell division could be your fertility doctor, or it could also be a cancer doctor. All right, so this is where you need to study, guys, Essentials for Life. So in this class, I believe we left off on we did the cavities. Okay, right? You guys have that as your notes? We left off on the cavity. Okay. Also know what body parts are within the cavity. So on the quiz, if I were to say, if I just give you a list of organs and I ask you, tell me which cavity this belongs to. Heart, trachea, esophagus, thymus gland. You know, we're gonna think thoracic, and you don't necessarily have to know what each each organ is, but know the general area, and you'll be able to tell. So we know that our, let me make this a little bigger. Right, here's our thoracic cavity, which is the middle of our back, chest area. We know our heart is there, we know our lungs are there. And it's named because of our thoracic spine. And then our abdominal cavity. So if I named stomach, our kidneys, right, it's going to be down here in the abdominal pelvic cavity. And the two cavities are separated by the diaphragm right here in the center. So review that as well. Okay. We kind of looked at the diagnostic. Let me go back up really quick. Okay. So the pleura is really just like a membrane. It's a membrane that lines the lungs, the membranes that line the abdominal cavity. And this is a boundary. Because if you look at our lungs, it needs to be protected from anything that it shouldn't be in there, like anything acidic or anything that's going to affect the cells of the lungs. In our stomach cavity, right? When we create abdominal pelvic cavity, when we chew food, goes down our esophagus into our stomach, the large particles of food can't go into our digestive system. So our stomach creates a lot of really, really strong acid to break down, to digest our food particles that we ate, as well as bring it all the way down to a molecular level so that it could be metabolized in our intestinal tract. Your nutrients that you eat is not absorbed until it is actually at a molecular level. And that's metabolism, when it actually is absorbed and used for energy or survival. So we definitely would need to keep the strong stomach acid within the stomach for their purpose, right? So that membrane, that pleura, is really, really has to be a strong boundary. Because then if it starts leaking, right, that strong acid into the rest of the body, it could affect other organs. So it could remember, membranes, boundaries can also protect anything from getting out and affecting the outside too. So that's what pleura is. Now, diagnostic imaging began in the early 1900s with x-rays. And for this class, we may look at some x-rays. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I do want to show you what it looks like with these different types of diagnostic imaging. One thing I do, this ultrasound imaging, there's two kinds of ultrasound that you may hear in sports medicine. And when we come back from our break, I will show you the ultrasound therapy. So there's ultrasound in the imaging. So when a mom, or when you guys were in your mom's stomach, they'd have to check your heartbeat. They'd look for the heartbeat, and they took a little wand, put gel on her tummy, and then they would kind of like do this. You see it like on TV, right? On like Grey's Anatomy. When they round the stomach and they're looking for the heart on an imaging on a screen. So it's sound waves that are bouncing back really quickly, creating an image. So that's imaging. But there's an ultrasound for therapy, like physical therapists will use, athletic trainers will use, maybe post-treatment. So if any of you guys watched the Laker game, a couple of the games in the playoffs, Anthony Davis, it looked like he sprained his ankle. So chances are after the game, he was able to walk off. They probably did an ultrasound treatment on him. And the ultrasound is actually like a wand. It kind of looks like the imaging ultrasound, but it creates a really strong heat that can penetrate really much deeper under the skin surface to promote healing. So I'll show you what that is when we come back, because I actually have it downstairs. All right, so let me show you some imaging just so we can have some kind of a idea of what this is called. All right, so you guys should be able to see my, let's see. Why don't I have any? Let's go back to, Do we take notes? Somebody asked. Absolutely. This is now the what, 7th week, and I'm still being asked that. Everyone should be taking notes, and your notebook should be full already. You should always take notes. All your classes, I would imagine. All right, let's go to, they might be on a different screen. Let me change this. Oh, I see why. Okay, so here are some different types of images. We know, for example, the X-ray, right? So here's your X-ray. And then this is, what's really cool about this is you can actually see on the X-ray what we're looking at on the right. So if we look at number 7, which is our trachea, and you can see here, that's what your trachea looks like in an X-ray. Number 16 would be the left pulmonary artery, which is, let's see it here, in the heart. Number 15 would be the 5th thoracic vertebrae. So it'd be here. All right. So that's what we, and you guys have seen the X-ray. So in an X-ray, the only really major thing that they can see is bone structure. If you went in and you were talking about maybe a heart issue or a lung issue, they may do an X-ray preliminary to see if there's any like dark spots in the lungs, but to further analyze it, they need to do an MRI. So let's go into that. All this stuff. Okay, so your MRI. Well, here's a different kind of scan, right? So this would be the axial CT through the neck. So they're looking into the brain. And an MRI, let me show you guys a real MRI. Anybody ever received an MRI before? You have? Do you know remember what it was for? Like a leg, maybe a knee?
No, I've gotten multiple MRIs, one majority of them being for my spine.
Or your spine?
Yeah, I have a spinal injury on my chest, 7.
In your neck? Is that what you said?
No, it's lower. It's like mid-back, T7.
Oh, T7. Do you have pain?
Yeah, a lot of pain. And
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Numbness?
Numbness and sharp pain and around the area.
Oh, wow. Okay. If you don't mind sharing, was it did you fall or just how you're growing?
It was a car accident, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then I had a fracture beforehand. It was a compression fracture from a fall.
Oh, okay.
And I had the car crash and the fracture, and it made cracks in it. So it's
wow.
And on the other side, there's cracks. So
you still have it?
Yes.
You still have the cracks?
Yes.
Was this recent?
The car accident was in 2017, and I recently had more scans done to see if anything changed, and they said that nothing has healed or changed.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So sitting at a desk must be exhausting for you.
It is. I have to wear a spine brace.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So what Alexandra was talking about was compression fractures within the vertebrae. You know, you have vertebrae and then the next vertebrae, and then you have the cartilage in between. The compression fractures tend to happen within the vertebrae because with weight and gravity, there's compression that happens. So if there's impact, then it's hard to fix unless, they have to just brace you so you don't move as much. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you get some kind of relief. Hope it heals soon.
Thank you.
So this is an MRI, a real MRI. This person, this is, if you guys have ever been in my classroom, I have a giant 73-inch flat screen, a touch screen, and this is what you would see. And if we ever go back in the classes here, I would have you guys work on the flat screen so you can learn to dissect. And this is what medical students use today in schools, medical schools. Some still use real cadavers, but it's just so hard to keep. And they don't last very long. So this is a true MRI. So the way they do it is this person donated his body to science, and they literally take images of the body section by section by section. They slice it, and then they take a picture, and then the next picture within fractions of an inch, not even an inch, a centimeter, millimeter even, to get a true MRI. So what you see on the left side are different points of view. So for example, if I were to take this cross section here, so you notice there's these cross sections, the red line and the green line. As I move it, the image on here changes. So this top section would be looking down into the body. This is like what they call the transverse plane, and we'll talk about directional terms in a second. They're looking down into the body. This middle section here would be a lateral view, so the side. And then this section here would be the frontal view. So this is an MRI. This part here on the left would be an MRI. Okay, so if I would turn him around. So this was an actual person who donated his body to science. And you can see the muscle tissue and how there's striations, right? The lines of the muscle. So we'll be using this software as well. Okay. So Emily, you've got an MRI as well?
Yeah.
And what did you get it on, if you don't mind sharing? I'm sorry?
On my knee. I got it done on my knee.
Oh, your knee? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of scary, isn't it? You guys sit in
loud.
this tube, it's like you can't, it's loud and you can't move. You're like in a tunnel and they wheel you in. And then they tell you to hold your breath. Because any slight movements, right, can kind of blur the image or change the image. Yeah, and it's a process for sure. But it's amazing that they can do that. Okay, that's an MRI. All right, so let's talk about the different body cavities and membranes. The human body is composed of distinct body parts, cavities, membranes, and organ systems that include various body systems. So we're going to go through each system. The first one is integumentary system. This is our skin. Our skin protects the underlying tissues. The hair, this is the hair, the nails, the oil glands, and the sweat glands. And it protects the underlying tissues of the body and assists in regulating body temperature, contains sensory receptors, and manufactures substances such as vitamin D. So integumentary system, you think of anything that's on the outside surface, right? We have our skin, talked about our nails on the outside surface of our body. Oil glands, like, if you have oily skin, for example, and then sweat glands. So for every system that we go over, guys, make sure you know what's in it and make sure you know the purpose of it. So the purpose of the integumentary system would be protecting underlying tissues, assist in regulation of body temperature, contain sensory receptors, and manufacture certain substances like oil and sweat, right? When we talk about, if you think about it, how it regulates body temperature, the examples we've been using would be the weather outside. So our stimulus would be, like this week's gonna be super hot. I think today's gonna be really hot. Tomorrow's gonna be the hottest day I heard. Right, when we get into those type of temperatures, stimulus hits our receptors, which is our skin. Control center says keep it to 98.6. Don't let it go up too high. Our effectors would be the glands, or sweat glands. The response would be to create sweat, and then the endpoint would be maintaining body temperature. So let's go back into this system here. So let's go into our total body system, whole body. Oops. Let's move this up. All right, where is my system? Okay, so here's our skeleton, and then we're gonna add in our integumentary system. Here's our skin. All right, and then these are actually just sections of the skin. So integumentary system, here's our skin. And then we have our nails. Let's see, I don't know if it comes, let's see, it goes up in our nails. I don't think so. Okay. All right, if you're following in the book, this is going to be, I think, page 11. And it's going to start a list of organ systems. Okay. Okay, I just added, why did this add? All right, next in our organ system, so we have our skin, so we're going to work our way in. Our skeletal system. In this class, we're going to know the skeletal system very, very well. Let me make sure I'm sharing my. So our skeletal system supports and protects soft tissue, helps the body move. The bones are bound by ligaments. So bone is attached to the next bone via a ligament and cartilages. Muscles attached to bone via a tendon. So please know the difference between a ligament and a tendon. Our bones also create blood formation within the long bone. I mentioned right in the center of it, if I cut it open, there's going to be a cavity, it's called a medullary cavity, that creates, it has your bone marrow, and bone marrow creates red blood cells. So that's blood formation. Storage of mineral sites, if your body is lacking calcium or certain types of minerals, and it's not getting adequate amounts via nutrition, it's going to start pulling from within. So things like starvation diets, where people like intermittent fasting, you have to really be careful with that when you get too malnourished, because all that hard work when people try to diet, and I see this a lot, they exercise, they try to put on muscle, and then they really don't eat nutritionally dense foods. The body starts to pull from within, and that's not good. There's 204 bones in the body. You will get to know a majority of these bones by memory, and you'll be pleasantly surprised with yourself how easily you're going to be able to remember the bones in the body. The skeletal system shields soft tissues, and we saw it when we looked at our thoracic cavity, right? Our ribs were protecting all our organs that were within the mediastinum, our heart, our trachea, right? All the organs within. So let's take a look real quick at our skeletal system. So let's take the skin off. So here's your skeletal system. And we talked about, let me open this up a little bit, right? How our cavities, our thoracic cavity here protects organs within. Our abdominal pelvic cavity protects our organs within this section here, our stomach area, and then our pelvic cavity. Because if you look at the shape of our pelvic bones, This is the ilium and the ischium down here. This protects your reproductive system, urinary bladder, all those systems here. Your long bone, when I refer to the long bone, this is your longest bone, your femur. Longest and your strongest bone because it carries most of your body weight. And it has to handle a lot of movement, especially if you're very active. You're doing a lot of, or lifting, maybe you're in a job that lifts, it carries things. You know, it takes a lot of, it's really amazing how strong the body is, especially if you can get it all, if you can get it working together. Let's see if I have the cross section. Okay, so here's the inside of the bone. They were to cut it right here. Trying to find the medullary cavity to have an image of it. So this part right here is the body of the femur. So this part right here is the greater trochanter. If you take if you're standing up, or you could be sitting too, but you feel it more if you're standing. If you take your thumb and go at the very top of your hip at your waist on the left side, and then work your way down your side of your leg, right, the side of your hip, and then just keep pressing a little bit with your thumb like this. And then right when you get to, like, let's say where your hip crease is, you're gonna feel a little bit of a bump. Go ahead and push in right there. It sticks out just slightly. That's this part right here, this trochanter, greater trochanter. And if you kind of push a little, add a little bit of pressure, some of you may feel some tenderness there. Right, that's an attachment site for where a tendon is. We'll talk about that when we get to the muscles. Bone growth happens here at the ends of your long bone. Right, so if you were maybe younger and there was concern that you weren't growing as tall, sometimes doctors that will take an X-ray or use an instrument, an apparatus that goes right into to look at the soft tissue of the long bone, and they'll look at your plate, they call a growth plate, epiphyseal plate, to see how they're going to estimate, because as you get older, that plate first is very spongy, very porous, and as you get older, it starts to solidify, and they're going to estimate. They can estimate how tall you're going to be actually at that age, based on estimation of growth. And in some cases, medical intervention does happen, but I don't know if really much can be done to increase your genetic bone growth or your height. All right, so we've done the integumentary system, we've done the skeletal system. Now we're talking about the muscular system. So in this class, we're going to spend a lot of time on the skeletal, muscular, and the nervous system. So muscular system, there's over 600 muscles, named muscles. You guys will also work on knowing most of it. Most of the main ones, the ones that, what they call mirror muscles, anything you see in the mirror, these are main muscles that we'll be working on in this class. Works with the skeletal system to move body parts by muscle contraction, right? By contraction means the shortening of that muscle fiber. So if a muscle is at rest is this long, if I bring the 2 points together, right? Actually not up, but this way, that's a contraction. Helps to maintain posture. Just by me standing here, I'm able to stay upright. If I have weakness or imbalances in my muscular system that helps me with posture, then I'm going to feel it either with pain, or you're going to see me shifting and standing. Like if you tend to stand more on like the left side, like you know, with your hip, there could be some muscle imbalances that are happening. And also maintains body heat. So the more muscle you have, or lean, not more muscle, but the leaner you are, less body fat percentage, more lean muscle mass, you're burning more calories at rest, and byproduct is body heat. All right, so let's take a look at our muscular system. So we're gonna add some muscles to this guy. So you can see where the, open it up a little bit. Where obviously the red is the muscles, where you see the white would be the tendon. So let's take, because Emily, you mentioned you had a, you said a meniscus?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember which one? Was it lateral or medial meniscus?
I'm not sure.
Okay. So let's look at the knee area. So here's your quads, and if you look at how the muscle fibers they run in different direction. So muscle fiber direction, write this down. Muscle fiber direction dictates muscle function. Muscle fiber direction dictates muscle function. So that means that the way the fibers run, if muscles contract, meaning they shorten, they bring the two ends together, they're always going to shorten in the direction of the fiber. Let me bring this back a little bit. They're always going to shorten in the direction of the fiber. So if we look at our chest muscle, pectoralis major, so if you notice the fibers kind of run in this diagonal shape, kind of a downward slope across and then down. Yeah, actually, let me type down, Ruben, I'll type it in the chat. So muscle fiber direction dictates muscle function. So if we look at our pectoralis major here, and if we can see that the fibers run kind of like in this horizontal and then downward slope, right? This is what they call the attachment site. This white is your fascia and tendon. Actually, here's more fascia and more it's connective tissue. If I shorten it or contract it, the two ends come together, right? This end and this end. So just based on that, what do you think is going to happen to my limb, my arm? What's it going to do to my arm?
Is it gonna bring your arm in?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to bring your arm in, right? So this is adduction, adduction. So if you guys look at my sweater and if I pretend it's my muscle fiber and I shorten it, it's going to bring my arm here, right? Horizontal adduction. So it's going to look like this. Right, there you go. Right, it's going to bring it in. So when it turns yellow, that's the contraction, meaning it's shortening there. So knowing that, once we get into the muscle system and knowing, I'm looking at the fibers and seeing how it's going to move my limb, either my arm or my leg, that's how you're going to come up with exercises. Because if you know this is function, the function of this muscle. If you can understand the function of a muscle, then it's easy enough to program an exercise. So in this class, as we explore careers in athletic training, strength and conditioning, or even just working out and exercising for yourself, what I don't want you guys to, if you plan to be in this field, what you don't want to do is know the exercise and then try to fit it in with your patient or your athlete. What you need to know is how the muscle moves, and then you can create the exercise. And the reason is because you're just going to have so many more options of exercise. You'll be unlimited. Right? It's just your creativity will be your only hindrance. The only thing that's going to stop you is your creativity. All right, so that's your muscular system. So just a short introduction. All right, we'll do one more slide and then we'll take a break. So again, for muscular system, this is your function. If I were to ask you which of these are functions of the muscular system, and you just know that, right, muscular system, we know logically that if it helps us move, run, pick things up, push, pull, and it maintains posture. Without it, if you imagine if our nervous system doesn't work, you won't be able to send a message out to our muscular system, the effectors, to contract and elicit movement. And that's sometimes due to disease. So our nervous system and endocrine system, which are our glands, coordinates and controls body functions. So the nervous system is really what helps maintain homeostasis by secreting hormones, secreting anything that needs to regulate body temperature to find stability. Because homeostasis, right, is the ability for the body to find, the number one goal is to find equilibrium or stabilization in the body. So the nervous system consists of the brain, the spinal cord, our nerves, and our sensory organs. All of those coordinate constantly, right? To tell the effectors and our muscles and our glands are effectors to do something to respond in order to create homeostasis. Very, very important system. So let's see if, do I have nervous system? Yes, I do. So back to our skeletal system, let's turn on our nervous system. So here's our nerves, right? Obviously our nervous system. Right here are these are just your specific nerves that run all throughout the body. Here's your largest nerve right here, and it runs in your hip. So if you look at your hip bone, and because we sit now, right? Because we don't move as much as when we were in school. And if you're sitting, right, here's your leg bone, and this is going to be up or bent, what they call hip flexion. This nerve right here is called a sciatic nerve. Tends to be compressed. So if any of you guys ever feel like numbness that runs down your leg, really painful. These two nerves right here. You have what they call sciatica, and in some cases it's debilitating. But I can tell you it's not a difficult fix. It's really just looking for where the compression is in the hip area and then opening it up. And right here would be where your glutes, your gluteal muscles sit. And many times it's just kind of like a shift in how your hip's sitting, or just going in there and there's a trigger point to open it up. Anybody ever have that pain, like sciatic pain, shooting down your leg?
No.
No? Good, because it's like the worst feeling. But if you do feel any tingling, fingertips, or like Alexandra, the way you described the tingling sometimes, any numbness, it's usually a nerve issue. It's usually some kind of nerve compression. Versus like soreness, right? That's more muscle and muscle issue. But if it's tingling and numbness, it's going to be a nerve issue. Okay. All right, so why don't we take a 10-minute break here? We'll come back and regroup. Put on the timer. Get up and stretch. And I will see you guys back in 9:48. All right, let's get back. We all back yet?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So let me go back to our PowerPoint. All right, guys. Okay, so nervous system, skeletal, muscular, nervous system. And then within our nervous system, our neurons are the basic units of the nervous system. This conducts electrical impulses, communicates with other nerve cells, as well as with glands and muscles. And just know that each system we're going to go over, this is just an introduction to it, and then we'll really get into each one as we go through other chapters. All right, the next system would be your endocrine system. So the endocrine system consists of hormone secreting glands, hormones that affect specific targets, altering their metabolism. Hormones have a relatively long duration of action, lasting for days or longer. So this is the system where it's in charge of all our glands that secrete hormones. It's secreted in our blood circulation, so it can affect all the sites it needs to. And then it alters our metabolism, sometimes slower, sometimes increased metabolism. Sometimes people are blessed with really high metabolism, and then the rest of us have to kind of work at it. For example, our thyroid glands are in charge of or oversee kind of our metabolism. And whether you have hypo or hyper, right, it's going to affect our metabolism. So that's an example of that. And there's a specialist that just concentrates on the endocrine system. And basically you would just get a blood test and they would just kind of check your levels at that point. Okay. Consists of your hypothalamus, pineal gland, thyroid gland, parathyroid gland, adrenal glands, pancreas, your thymus. Your hypothalamus and your pituitary gland are in your brain. And then this just starts going down inferiorly in the body direction. The ovaries and the testes also have endocrine functions, and we know that, right? So women, we go through our monthly cycle. Some of you may feel even like right before you're about to start your cycle starts before you have your period, you may feel like moodiness, maybe hungrier, you're craving certain foods. So that's part of the hormone secretion that's happening in your body. When you get to an older, females, you get to an older age, the ability for the ovary to secrete certain hormones diminishes, right? Testosterone level diminishes, estrogen level diminishes, and then that can really throw off the body system for females who get older. All right. Next one is our cardiovascular system. Consists of the heart, blood vessels, arteries, capillaries, and veins. The heart muscle pumps blood through the arteries, and blood returns in the heart via the veins. So arteries would be kind of away from the body. So think of the letter A, arteries. It's going to take the blood away from the heart, not the body, into the body. And then the veins returns back into the blood, returns back to the heart. So if blood is going away from the heart through the arteries, this would be oxygenated blood, because we breathe in the oxygen through our lung system, our respiratory system, right? Goes into down our trachea to the heart. Oxygen then is pulled, and the blood then is reoxygenated. So as it goes back into the body, the blood is delivering our oxygen. As it returns back into the body, this would be deoxygenated blood. Because our organs already pulled the oxygen from the blood, so then it has to go through that process again. So that's how you can remember the letter A. The arteries are away from the heart, veins are going back. The arteries also transport oxygen, carbon dioxide, nutrients, hormones, and waste. The veins return, we talked about this, deoxygenated blood to the heart. Lungs exchange carbon dioxide with oxygen, and oxygenated blood returns to the heart, then pumped into the body tissues. So it's really important that we breathe through our nose. And many times people forget that they're really, or don't even realize they're not breathing through the nose and they actually breathe through the mouth. But we need to, if you have clients who are, if you're training somebody and they're put under stress with exercise, sometimes they hold their breath. There's a tendency to hold their breath. So we got to get them, remind people to breathe. So it's pretty interesting how I've seen that through the years. People don't realize they're breathing through the mouth and not the nose, or they're even just holding their breath. And we know if you hold your breath, you're going to start to feel dizzy if you hold it incorrectly or through the chest too much versus just holding the diaphragm. So we will explore the cardiovascular system more in depth. The next system is our lymphatic system. This carries excess fluid from interstitial tissues involved in our immune system, and it's composed of the lymphatic vessels, lymph nodes, thymus, spleen, and lymph fluid. It works with the cardiovascular system to transport the fluid, tissue fluid back into the bloodstream. So lymphatic system is definitely part of your immune system. It produces antibodies and immunity, the lymphocytes. There's a therapy, what they call the lymphatic system massage, and some massage therapists specialize in it or they're trained in it, and they understand the lymphatic drainage system in the body. And when you get this kind of therapy, and it's usually good for people maybe who are going through some form of cancer treatment or under heavy medication, and they just, because when you take pharmaceutical medication, there's a lot of different waste or issues that happen within the body. You guys have seen medicine commercials where if you take, it's for one purpose, but then on the very bottom it says, yeah, but the side effects are like a bigger list than the purpose of the drugs. So there's a lot of chemical changes that happen in the body when you're taking certain pharmaceuticals. So you need to get all that stuff out. So the lymphatic drainage system, or the lymphatic massage, literally is when you're laying on the massage table, the touch is it's just like this. It's just taking your fingertips and just helping to kind of move the lymphatic system and to activate it so that things start to kind of flow. And sometimes you're laying there thinking, like, you don't even think anything's happening. But if any of you guys are interested, just look it up, lymphatic system massage. But it's, people swear by it and they do it often, especially those who are undergoing certain treatments like cancer. So that's your lymphatic system. So you can imagine in this pandemic, right, ensuring that the lymphatic system is working well, especially as we start getting into the fall when the flu season is naturally around. Combine that with a pandemic, our immunity really needs to be strong. All right, our digestive system, very important for our immunity as well. Functions include digestion, absorption, metabolism, and excretion. Our digestive system takes in food, breaks it down, absorbs nutrients, and excretes the waste. And it also produces some hormones and works along with the endocrine system. So for example, part of digestion is chewing. When you first put the food in, that's part of your digestive system. When you eat something, right? When you start chewing, saliva gets secreted. And not just saliva, but within the saliva, there's specific hormones, enzymes that help break down food, just like carbohydrates gets broken down in your mouth. So that's why it's saying it works with the endocrine system. And then as the food starts to go down your esophagus, into your stomach, and your digestive tract, it needs to really be broken down to finer cellular structures for metabolism, right? Absorption and metabolism. So the hormones need to start breaking it down. We talked about the stomach acids need to be really strong to break things down. And then as it finally goes out for excretion once everything is used up. So this includes our mouth, salivary glands, pharynx, small intestine, large intestine, and so on. This is all part of your digestive system. Your teeth, your tongue, right? We need our tongue to push the food. Esophagus is where the food travels down to your stomach. The liver is what filters the waste. And then your rectum, your anus, where is part of the excretion process. All of these are part of your digestive system. Okay, let's see, we have, any questions so far?
No.
You guys are good? Okay. So some of these, I mean, a lot of these body parts you guys know, now you're just putting them in the correct departments, right? Now we're filing them away so we're a little bit more organized. So look at it that way. Respiratory system provides oxygen for the body, removes carbon dioxide, right? We were expelling carbon dioxide. It includes our nose, our pharynx, trachea, lungs, nasal cavity. So what cavity is the respiratory system in? If you were to look at these parts, what body cavity? Who remembers? Anyone remember? Thoracic cavity. All right, so our respiratory system is in our thoracic cavity. Where would your digestive system be in? It's just, right, it's kind of a mixture, a little bit of dorsal cavity, our mouth, our teeth, our tongue, salivary glands, that's our dorsal. Pharynx would be, we're starting to go down, so that's our thoracic. So you guys know your cavities. Okay, so that's our respiratory system found in the thoracic cavity. It's our lungs, right? Our nose. But predominantly, we know it as our lungs, our breathing tube, our trachea, our bronchi. Larynx is your throat. And then next is your urinary system. This regulates body fluids, electrolytes, removal of waste. Acid-base balance consists of your kidneys, ureters, urinary bladder, and urethra. So purpose of this is to remove waste from the body. Your urine is expelled through your urethra. Kidneys is what filters waste from the blood, maintains electrolyte concentrations. And your urine is usually stored in the urinary bladder and carried outside of the body by your urethra. So it's let me get through 2 more slides. And then we have your female reproductive system and then your male reproductive system. Provides sites of fertilization and development of fetus. Sex cells are called oocytes or eggs, secretes hormones, estrogen and progesterone. It consists of the ovaries, uterus, and all of these areas here. And what cavity would this female reproductive system be found in? What cavity? Pelvic cavity. That's right, man. This would be in your pelvic cavity. Same thing with your male reproductive system. Right, secretes sperm and semen, secretes hormone called testosterone. And then these are the parts of your male reproductive system. Also found in the pelvic region, pelvic cavity. All right, so I'm going to stop here. So for the quiz, know all of the organ systems. I'm gonna, why did I think I hit the, delete this. So know your organ systems that we just covered. And then all the things that we reviewed on the Jamboard. And then we will do another review on Monday when I see you guys. Right, your quiz will be on Tuesday. This will be a timed quiz. Any questions? All right, well, if you guys don't have any questions, I will see you guys Monday for the review. And have a great week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Jacob. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good day.
Thank you,
Bye,
you too.
miss.
Bye, miss.
Bye, Larry.
Bye, miss.
Bye. Bye.